Hi guys, happy Friday. Today we're going to talk about modeling subtracting rational numbers. So if you notice in the other lessons that we did, we only were talking about adding with integers, etc. So now we're going to talk about how we would model subtraction. So you guys have heard me say many times before, whether you realize it or not, that a negative number and subtraction are technically one and the same thing. You also may have heard me say that subtraction is really adding, and this is the lesson where we're going to talk about this a little bit more. So if in our Explore activity, we're going to look at what it means for us to take -5 and subtract 2 from that number. So what I'm going to show you is that when you subtract a positive number, you're really just adding the opposite of the number. So we would start at -5, which is here, and in order to subtract a positive number, we're subtracting, so we're just going to move to the left. So we're going to start here, and we're going to move 2 to the left, which lands us on -7. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show that adding the opposite of a number is exactly the same. So we're changing it. Instead of subtracting +2, we're adding -2. -2 is the opposite of +2. So let's see. We start at -5. And to add a negative number, we move 2 units to the left. So we take -5 and we're adding -2, so we're moving to the left. 1, 2. So we get -7 again. So the point here is the difference of -5 minus 2 is -7, and the sum of -5 plus -2 is -7. What is the opposite of 2? -2. So in order to subtract a rational number, you can just add the opposite instead. And this is not just for rational numbers, this is for integers, any kind of number. When you subtract a positive number, you can just add the opposite on the number line to help you understand and also use the rules. Okay, so for this reflect down here, we're just going to talk about it. Why can you add the opposite to subtract a rational number? The reason why is because it's exactly the same thing. When you subtract a positive number, you're starting at the original number and you're moving to the left. When you add a negative number, you're doing the exact same thing. You're starting and moving to the left. So they are exactly the same. Okay? We're going to do the same thing as yesterday, where we come back to the your turn and we'll do the guided practice together. Okay? So here's how we're going to handle this. We're going to rewrite each of our subtraction problems as addition by adding the opposite, and then you can also use the number line if you choose. So -3 minus 6 is the same as -3 plus -6. Okay? Now you can choose to use the pattern, same signs add and keep here, or you can just use the number line, whatever you guys want. -3 minus 6, we're going to start at -3, and we're going to move to the left 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -9. Okay? And we get the same thing either way. Now, if you're using same signs add and keep, when you look at this, I'm going to tell you now, rewriting it as adding the opposite is easier to see. But when you look at this, -3 minus 6, you have to try to think of this as a -6. And -3, same signs add and keep. But if you rewrite it like this, it's always better. So we have same signs, they're both negative. Add and keep. 3 plus 6 is 9, keep the negative. Okay? All right, now we have 0.5 minus 3.5. Now you might be thinking, oh, we don't have to change anything here. But notice that the number we're subtracting is larger than the number we're subtracting from, which presents a problem. So we're going to rewrite this as adding the opposite. This is 0.5 plus -3.5. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to move to the left. We start at 0.5, so that's here. And we're going to move to the left 3.5 times. So we're going to go 1, that's a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and we land on -3. Okay. And to show you with the pattern, of course, different signs we subtract, you would have to look at this and notice that this is the same as 0.5 minus plus -3.5, with the -3.5 being the bigger number. So we would do 3.5 minus 0.5, and we would get 3.0. Keep the bigger sign, which is -3. Okay? So on your homework, you're going to do the same thing up here. You're going to change it to addition. So that's what this blank line is for. So you're going to find it both ways. You can use the number line the first time and then rewrite it as addition, or you can use the pattern. Okay? And I want you really, guys, I really want you to try your best to rewrite this all as addition. We're adding the opposite, because as you go into 7th grade, the biggest mistake here is looking at something like this and doing 12 minus 8. Or looking at this and saying, oh, these aren't the same signs. This is going to be -5 because I'm going to subtract. But in reality, these are both negative numbers, because this is -1 plus -6. So really take the time to practice with this. It's going to make a huge difference in 7th grade, where we spend a bunch of time doing this stuff. So let's try 2 and 3 here. What I want you to do, it doesn't say to do it here, but I would like for you to rewrite this as adding the opposite, and also use the number line. And then pause, and we can check your answers. Okay, guys. So for the first one, this is pretty simple because the larger number is positive. 5.5 minus 2.5. I just rewrote it. 5.5 plus -2.5, which means we're starting at 5.5 and moving 2.5 to the left. So this would be half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, landing on 3. Of course, using the regular subtraction here, this is different signs, so you subtract and keep the larger number. So you just do 5.5 minus 2.5, you get 3. For number 3, we're starting, this one was slightly tricky because they're giving you different denominators, so you just got to be careful. We're starting at -2 1/4, and we are subtracting 1 1/2. So rewriting that as adding is -2 1/4 plus -1 1/2. So my goodness, that's a really loud motorcycle, and it's literally 7 a.m. Okay. Anyway, so we're starting at -2 1/4, and we're going to move to the left 1 1/2. So you have to just be careful because these are all by fourths. So when you move a half, you have to move 2/4. So just be careful with that. So -2 1/4, a fourth, 2/4, 3/4, 1. That's your -1. Now you have to move a half. So that's 1/4, 2/4, which is a half, landing on -3 3/4. If you choose to use the pattern or the rules, so to speak, this is same signs. It's -2 1/4 plus -1 1/2. So it's same signs, add and keep. So that's 9/4 plus 3/2. Change the 3/2 so that it has a denominator of 4. Okay, and you get 6/4. Adding, you get 15/4. 4 goes into 15 3 times with a remainder of 3. And you get -3 3/4. Okay, guys? So the more you practice this, the better you're going to get at it. Like I said yesterday, if you really need to use the number line, that's the whole point of this lesson, is introducing it to you so that you can actually understand why these rules are the way they are. So if you don't want to be using these patterns, these rules, don't worry about it, because next year we're going to spend the whole beginning of the year doing this stuff. So if you want to stick with just the number lines, don't pressure yourself into using those patterns, okay? All right, enjoy your weekend and have fun subtracting.